With version 2.4 of Genshin Impact right around the corner, people are getting really excited for the things to come. During the live stream, we saw announcements of reruns for Ganyu, Xiao, and Zhongli, as well as a really gorgeous new character, Shenhe. And I feel like a certain character has been a little bit overshadowed in there, with the new area being so gorgeous and all these characters that people have been waiting for. But the 4-star of the patch, Yun Jin, is clearly underrated. She doesn't get talked about enough. And in this video, I'm just going to talk about her potential, and I have a lot of math in here. If you don't want to hear the math and just hear the final product, I'll bookmark it in the video, and you can skip ahead to that. If you want to hear the logic and how I actually reached the conclusions I came to, then watch the whole video. It's not that long. Anyways, please enjoy the video, and let's begin. For this entire video, we will be assuming this Yun Jin is C0 unless otherwise specified, and level 80 with talents leveled 6. The real strength of this is that you can see this is a relatively low investment build. It's not crowning, it's not getting them all the way to level 90, and it's not going to take too many resources. Yun Jin's a 4-star, she doesn't need all that many resources to get to level 80, and talent level 6 is entirely reasonable. It's something you could crank out in a day or two, even. The strength that you will see in this video from such a low investment build, with such reasonable expectations, well, listen up and you'll see. Let me start by explaining how Yun Jin scales. So, for her shield, which she does generate after charging her elemental skill, she scales it on HP, which isn't a lot, honestly. However, her elemental burst, the buff she gets from it and the damage she does with it, is scaled off of her current defense. And since for this video, I just plan to talk about how to maximize that cheaply, the thing I'm going to be focusing on is defense. So, the artifact you see here is from the Husk set, which gives plus 30% defense at 2-piece. In my opinion, 2-piece is really all that you need. I don't know how much more useful 4-piece is going to be. I think it's going to be pretty great, though. I think 4-piece Husk is definitely her best set. However, you could run 2-piece Husk and 2-piece Emblem if you need more energy recharge, or if you're trying to just actually add some damage to her ult, you can go 2-piece Noblesse there too. The next artifact you're seeing now is defense percent plus 20. This is how much defense percent you get from a plus 20 artifact that has main stat of defense. Now, this is important because we're going to be using 3 of these. So this just means that we're going to be getting a ton of defense. At level 80, not ascended, Yun Jin gets 651 base defense. Now, assuming that you have your 2-piece Husk, you add 30% from that. We're going to say around 30% substats of defense percent on your flower and your feather, and 3 artifacts that each have 58.3% defense as their main stat. Now, disregarding all other defense bonuses, this will put a level 80 Yun Jin at right around 2,200-2,300 defense. Unfortunately for Yun Jin, there is no defense scaling polearm weapon, so she doesn't get to raise her stats like that, which is really inconvenient. Now, the real toughie is getting her uptime right. Or at least it would be. But her elemental burst only needs 60 energy, and as we saw in the live stream trailer, her elemental skill generates 5 to 6 particles, which is more than enough, and it has a 9-second cooldown, reduced to 8 seconds as of C1. Now, her scaling for her ult, for this entire video, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be assuming level 80, talent level 6, with, I'm going to say a few other things, just in case, but you know, for the most part, C0, level 80, talent level 6, and the artifacts I described. Now, with those stipulations, she will have around 2,200 defense or so, most likely. And at talent level 6, C0, her ult gives 45.02% of defense to normal attacks as bonus damage. And it's just the next 30 normal attacks for each character. So that's really only 915 bonus damage per hit there, which doesn't feel like a whole lot. When you think about it as 30 hits, that's right around 2,700 bonus damage, which is absolutely absurd. And that's ignoring something really important, which is her second Ascension talent. Once Yun Jin hits level 60 and ascends, she gains her second passive talent, which says, for each element in the party, Yun Jin raises Yun Jin's elemental burst will grant an additional amount of bonus damage based on her defense on top of the scaling that her ult already has, maxing out at 11.5% from having 4 different elements. Now, the really interesting part here is that with this bonus, that pushes Yun Jin up to right around 3,500 bonus damage in total, or a little bit over just a bit under 1,150 bonus damage per hit. Now, the next thing already that's significant. The next thing that's important is her constellations. At C1, her cooldown is reduced for her elemental skill, allowing her to keep more consistent uptime. At C2, Yun Jin grants an additional 15% of her defense as bonus damage during her elemental burst. So that puts her up to right around 1,750. 1,500. That puts her at right around 1,500 total buff. 1,500 per hit, and is a total buff of 4,500 per character. Now, that's getting impressive at this point. Her third constellation raises the level of her elemental burst by 3, which grants a little over 250 more additional damage per hit based on her scaling. So that puts it at just around 1,750 per hit. A total bonus of 52,500 per character. Now, at C4, whenever she makes it crystallize, she gains 20% defense. Assuming a standing defense of around 2,100, that puts her at 2,520. Rounding down to 2,500 for the sake of easy math, we see that she's currently granting around 85% of that 2,500 to normal attacks, which is 2,125. Super impressive. This makes the total damage per character 63,750. Her C5 doesn't help a whole lot with this. It just raises the level of her elemental skill. It'll make her shield a little stronger. Her elemental skill is kind of a nuke, though. It's real strong. But then the really important one is her C6. All characters affected by Yun Jin's elemental burst will have 12% increased attack speed, meaning that you'll be more reliably able to crush out 3, maybe even all 4 characters of their entire stack. Because the way Yun Jin's elemental burst works is either the next 30 hits or the next 12 seconds, whichever comes first, for each character will be bonus. Will have a bonus to the normal attacks. So that's just super, super impressive with that already. So the really crazy thing here is that puts you up to 191,750 bonus damage overall, looking at 3 characters. And you can do this at AR 45 easily. Just happen to roll C6 Yun Jin, whatever. AR 45, because that's when you can start getting your 5-star artifacts, start actually getting this stuff done. And because she doesn't need to be level 90 for it. Now, interestingly, there is no defense scaling polearm for Yun Jin. Fortunately for her, as I've just shown, she doesn't really need it. So she gets to run And because she doesn't need her attack, she gets to run lower base attack weapons like Favonius Lance, or the Catch, I guess, though that one's probably not the best. Or like, I don't know, Wavebreaker Fin, things that have energy recharge on them so that she can more reliably get her elemental burst up so she can use it again. So, there are some stipulations with this. I have a few theories about this. I don't actually know exactly how this is going to work. This is just, I looked at some numbers and I read some descriptions. This is me guessing how this is going to work. If it's just a flat bonus, it's going to be good, but it's not going to be overwhelming. Nothing insane. But if it's just... But if... Here's the thing. There's a chance that Yun Jin adds that damage before crits are calculated. If that is the case, then you can have... Then that means that Yun Jin will just scale on whoever the active character's crit damage is, whoever the active character's crit rate is. So you can totally ignore those stats. Go all in on defense and energy recharge. The best character, possibly in the entire game, to use with Yun Jin, is actually Xiangling. Xiangling can pump out 9 attacks every few seconds, and when you give her the Crescent Pike, she gets additional normal attack damage for each of those hits. So you can pump out 18 hits in just like 2 seconds, which means you can really quickly deplete her entire stack from Yun Jin's elemental burst. And if it's calculated before crit rate, crit damage, or it's added before crit rate, crit damage, and say you have 60% crit rate on Xiangling and 120% crit damage, the 37,500 from a C0 Yun Jin becomes 64,000, or the 64,000 from C4 to C6 Yun Jin turns into 110,000 bonus damage on one character. And this is all over the course of 3 to 4 seconds. You're getting so much extra damage out of this. It's really incredible. Now, even if it does not scale, even if it does not add in before the crit damage and scale with the crit damage, it's still a really decent amount. And she's already rivaling Albedo for off-field presence. Now, there are some really interesting synergies in here, which are especially Eula. Yun Jin buffs the next 30 hits of normal attacks. Eula needs exactly 30 hits to reach maximum Lightfall Sword stacks on her elemental burst. So you just get 30 powered up attacks into your fully powered up ult. And if you have Yun Jin C6, it'll be really easy to get those 30 hits out with Eula, who already attacks quite quickly for a Claymore. Also, rather significantly, a level 90 Yun Jin can reach a standing 2800 defense without the husk set, like without 4-piece husk. You're looking at so much extra damage there, because Yun Jin just gets so much from it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in summary, this is the worst case scenario. With all of these, this is worst case scenario for Yun Jin. She is either good or broken. Now, worst case scenario, C0 Yun Jin can easily match an Albedo in terms of off-field damage bonus. Best case scenario, she could double or even triple him in that regard. Each of her constellations is strictly an upgrade, but none of them are necessary to make her work. If you want to know the best point to stop when pulling for Yun Jin constellations, it would probably be C2 or C3. Running Yun Jin on a team with 4 elements is optimal, a resonance which increases the resistances of the team while allowing Yun Jin to compensate for any damage lost to not using other resonances, such as Pyro for extra attack or Cryo for extra crit rate. The Yun Jin will have no trouble keeping her elemental burst up as much as possible, especially if you're running on a Favonius Lance. Prototype Star Glitter is a decent craftable spear as well if you can't get the Favonius Lance. Yun Jin should definitely run at least 2 pieces of the husk set. It's optimal to run her on 3 defense artifacts for sure. Her scaling is quite good on all of her abilities except her normal attacks, but she fixes that herself. And a C0 Yun Jin can reasonably expect 30,000 additional damage per character during her ult while it's well built. And C4 to C6, with the same build, could reasonably expect 60,000 to 70,000 additional damage per character at minimum. I'm definitely going to release another video after I get Yun Jin to talk about whether I was right, all the things that I was correct or wrong about. There's also a chance that it functions exactly like the Crescent Pike and that it just adds an additional instance of damage, which would be interesting, because then you would need to build some crit rate and crit damage onto Yun Jin herself. But none of this is really shown. So this is just me seeing numbers and seeing words, and this is how I interpreted it. Please be sure to check out my other videos. I have a lot of stuff that I like to talk about, and I've been making some really good stuff recently. I'm quite proud of it. That's all from me for this time. See you guys later. Bye!